So the previous episode of this particular program was all about how Todd Reirden wasn't entirely to blame for the power play this past season. I'll stand by that. I'll also stand by his firing. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Reirden was fired this past Friday, a few hours after that episode came out, and no explanation was given. There was no real elaboration. There was a general quote from Kyle Dubas that stated that he and Mike Sullivan had discussed this. Of course they did. And that they were jointly announcing this, which of course they would. To me, there's no drama in any of that. Every head coach or every manager is going to stand up for the people who are working for them. So there's always going to be a discussion. Nothing to see there at all. But there also was, again, no mention of what would have led to it, because that actually would have been really Bush League. What did lead to it, of course, no one has to wonder, was the power play. There was no way you could get through a season like the one that the Penguins just had and have one single pointed shortcoming like that power play performing at a near historic low with all that assembled talent out there, regardless of how it was deployed or chosen or acquired, doesn't matter. You can't have that many great / very good players out there and that have the power play just be such a dagger for you. So Reirden was going to go. And again, I'm okay with it, but not related to the power play. See, before Reirden became known as the power play guy here, Reirden was mostly the assistant coach who was responsible for working with the defensemen, plural. And that meant Chris Letang on down. No one was an exception to that. In fact, some of Reirden's finest work as an NHL instructor occurred with Letang. Letang was really able to anchor himself in the back end as a solid, strong, sturdy defender, in large part because of instruction and admonition that he would get regularly from Reirden. So if you go back to the, let's say, first half of this past season and remember Letang's penalty killing in particular, he was phenomenal. He was just a PK machine, one-man destruction force out there, and one-man clearing force too. It seemed like he would have about 99% of all the clears to the other end. That's to Reirden's credit. Same would apply to a lot of other players who've been here, including the mercurial types like the Mike Matheson. He didn't completely settle down Matheson, but he anchored him to an extent, taught him how to get into his own zone and just find a spot and manage that spot. And here's how to do that. Matheson would tell me all about this. It was good stuff. Talk about an intelligent guy. And Matheson took that instruction in, and I would argue that he played some of his better defense in a Pittsburgh uniform than he ever did with the Panthers. That was to Reirden's credit. Finding a way with Marcus Pettersson was to Reirden's credit. Marcus, when he got here, was neat, but he was kind of an in-between. You didn't know exactly what he was. You knew he was skinny, he wasn't going to hit anybody, or he was going to hit people, but it wasn't going to matter. He could jump up in the attack, but you really want him doing that. And Reirden helped Pettersson find a home, a long-term home on this blue line. That's to his credit. You know where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. I mean, Ryan Graves. Now, Graves comes along. He gets grossly overpaid by Kyle Dubas. That's not even an opinion, much less a criticism. And there were no answers for him here. Dubas himself has acknowledged since the end of the season that Graves was a disappointment, but also that Graves was, in Dubas's estimation, and the estimation of a lot of people, a pretty good player, both with the Avalanche and the Devils. What happened to him here? I don't know. Graves told me early in the season more than once that he was struggling to adapt to the system, but then when I look at how the Devils play, it wasn't really all that different than how the Penguins play. And maybe it was just that John Marino, his partner in Newark, was covering up for a lot of stuff. But whatever the case, it didn't happen here at any point. Not only did Graves struggle immensely, but there was never even a phase, a span within the season where you said, oh yeah, well here, this looks like something good. This looks like some of what he would do with those previous two teams. It never happened. And I'm telling you that I believe strongly that that had a role in Reirden's firing as well. Because if Reirden wasn't going to be able to do something for the power play, and he wasn't going to be able to fix the one defenseman that they most needed to fix, what the hell was he getting paid for? When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from DJ, and it's in response to an episode I had last week about the power play collapsing effectively over the final month of the season, notably once Michael Bunting came into the fold and was used as a bumper, meaning he went back and forth really within the slot, from right in front of the net to up higher between the circles. That allowed more room for the Penguins to close in because you'd force the other team's penalty killers to do likewise on Bunting or whoever. This is what DJ has to say regarding collapsing. He says, what's the simplest way to do that with 5 players who love perimeter patty cake passing and, except for Bunting, now have zero desire to venture directly above the crease? The answer is Sidney Crosby below the goal line. Turn the defensemen's heads to have them looking backward, not up ice. Then our players collapse the box by continually flashing to pockets of open ice untracked by the defense. Some might see this as gimmicky. I don't. It would exploit Sid's greatest elite traits, passing and puck possession, and collapse the box. I hope our next power play coach gives it a 5-game try. DJ, I happen to agree with some of this, but not all of it. And here's why. I love Sid at the goal line. I don't know how anybody couldn't. I think Sid does things at the power play goal line that are among the best in NHL history, notably his ridiculous touch with deflections and rebounds and so forth, including from severe angles. He's effective down there. Here's what I don't think would happen in your plan. I don't think you would see opposing penalty killers turn around and worry about him. The reason for that is that the league has gone away from that type of penalty killing in general, or even defending people in front of the net. And the old school way was get that guy out of there, punish him. And you put some monster D-man back there, Dave Burrows, if you want to go back to the 70s, and you're just killing the guy and you're cross-checking him across the neck and you're doing whatever to get him out of there. That doesn't happen anymore. The defensemen actually allow the player doing the screening to just go stand there. They leave it up to the goaltender to see around the person doing the screening. The onus is entirely on the goaltender. Why? Because that player is told to go front the puck. That's the terminology. They figure they've got a better chance of preventing a goal in general by just keeping the puck out. So that defenseman's job isn't to keep the player out, it's to keep the puck out of that area in general. Block a shot, intercept a pass, do whatever you got to do. Don't let the puck get there. That person can't do any damage to you if there's no puck, right? Well, if Sid's below the goal line, who's going to turn around and go back there? In this environment, in modern hockey, who's going to turn around and go back there? The Flyers, maybe. They're really aggressive on the PK. I would probably throw the Golden Knights in there as well. They also do a lot of that. But that's about it. It's a really short list. Even the Islanders have gotten away from that to some extent. And they used to be really, really aggressive. So it sounds good, But the way better plan is the other one that you mentioned there. Not that that can't be simultaneous, but bunting going into the middle, going right into the zone, is the equivalent of in basketball just standing there in the paint, which you're only allowed to do for 3 seconds in hoops. You can do it as long as you want in hockey. Bunting goes there. They have to worry about him. They have to move in on him. My goodness, it took 5 months for this team to use that type of deployment. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we will do another one of these tomorrow.